Okay, this next slide, I'm not meaning to belittle police officers or undermine their authority or anything like that. They have a very difficult job. However, there's one thing that I want to keep in your minds that they cannot do, because this happened to me just a year ago when I was riding home with my wife on Labor Day weekend. Now, whenever you're driving down the road, how do you communicate with other vehicles? Right. You're going to flash your lights, okay? So flashing your lights is not illegal, and I want to make that very clear, because a police officer who sets up a speed trap is going to pull you over if they see you flashing your lights at them, and that's exactly what happened to my wife. However, the police officer didn't realize the driver's ed teacher was sitting in the passenger seat. So what I want to do is talk to you just for a second, in case this ever happens to you, about a court case called Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus Beachy. Okay, this took place a few years ago, and it's happened in virtually every state. And the Supreme Courts of those states have upheld your rights as a citizen to your right to free speech. Flashing your lights is how you communicate with other people on the road, because you can't talk to them while they're driving past. So if there's a danger or a hazard in the road or something going on, you flash your lights to get their attention and alert them. Okay, now this happened to us. The vehicle code, which that police officer is going to cite when he tries to give you a ticket. Vehicle code 4306A is what he's going to cite. That's not important. You don't got to remember that part. But 4306A of the vehicle code, he's going to say that you're impeding his ability to discharge his duties as an officer of the law by you warning other motorists about his presence. And that is illegal. If you take this to the magistrate or to any court system, you're going to talk about the Constitution and your First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. And the vehicle code does not trump your First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. Now, in Pennsylvania, when this kept going up the ladder through the courts until it got to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, after the decision was made at the Supreme Court level that Mr. Beachy had the right to freedom of speech and that this police officer could not issue him a ticket, the Supreme Court Justice further stated the following: a police officer cannot prove that a motorist was speeding prior to you flashing your lights. Also, a police officer cannot prove that a motorist was intoxicated prior to you flashing your lights and warning him that there's a DUI check ahead. Now, somehow magically they think these people might have sobered up in that 200-yard span of distance. I don't know, but this does not supersede your First Amendment rights to communicate with other drivers. Now, that Supreme Court Justice also stated one other thing, that 4306A of the Vehicle Code was never intended to apply to the midday use of a driver's headlights. Okay? That was about blinding people at nighttime. But if you're just flashing your lights briefly, that's not going to impair their vision enough to endanger people to cause an accident. So the First Amendment of the Constitution, you have the right to freedom of speech. They cannot, even though they're going to try, give you a ticket for flashing your lights at other motorists.